Week 14 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I looked at this week off the wire. The first guy, Ezequiel Tovar of the Colorado Rockies. So Tovar has been one of the hottest hitters in the last few weeks in fantasy baseball. In the season, 8 home runs, 41 RBIs, 40 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a 270 average, and a 305 on base. And over the last 2 weeks, he's tearing it up. 2 home runs, 11 RBIs, a stolen base, 8 runs scored, a 371 average, and a 405 on base. At Tovar, one of the top prospects coming up through the Rocky system in the last couple of years. And right now, it's really paying off for Tovar and this Rocky team now in the second half approaching of the season right now. June 27th versus the Dodgers, 1 for 4. June 28th versus the Dodgers, 2 for 4, 2 runs, 3 RBIs. June 29th versus the Dodgers, 1 for 4, 2 runs. June 30th versus the Tigers, 2 for 4, a home at 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. July 1st versus the Tigers, 1 for 3, a rib. And July 2nd versus the Tigers, 1 for 4 with an RBI. So right now he's playing great baseball. He's Tovar, available right now in 62% of fantasy leagues. And he's going to help you in batting and runs. Stolen bases, he'll get a few here and there. And runs scored. And right now this Rocky team, they're not really playing for much. He's going to get the everyday opportunity for the remainder of the season, even though pretty much since opening day, he's been the starting shortstop. So right now, Tovar's a solid add this week. And if you need help at shortstop or even utility, that's where he's going to help you out. The next hitter is Tommy Pham of the New York Mets. At Tommy Pham, he signed the 1-year deal with the Mets in the offseason. And with the Mets almost out of the race already here in the beginning of July, Tommy Pham could be a trade candidate and go to a contender. But anyway, on the season, he's having a good year as Pham. 9 home runs, 33 RBIs. 22 runs scored, 9 stolen bases, a 285 average, and a 351 on base. A Pham, mid-May, early June is when he pretty much started playing every day for this Met team, where Mark Canha was struggling, and he's making the most of his opportunity. In the last month, he's tearing it up. 6 home runs, 19 RBIs, 15 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a 348 average, and a 385 on base. So right now, he seems like he's getting a hit per night, or even 2 hits per night. That's how good Pham has been over the last few weeks here. And he's showing power and stealing bases. So he can help fantasy owners in a few categories. Available right now in 77% of leagues. June 27th versus the Brewers, 1 for 4, a run and a rib. June 28th versus the Brewers, 3 for 3 with a homer in that one. June 29th versus the Brewers, 2 for 4. June 30th versus the Giants, 3 for 4, a homer, and RBI, 2 runs scored. July 1st versus the Giants, 1 for 3 with a rib. So right now he's playing great baseball as Tommy Pham. Definitely could be a trade candidate, like I said, but right now wherever he goes, he's going to get an everyday chance, I believe. He's a solid fielder, can steal bases and has some pop. And like I said, he's had a long major league career where he's pretty much been a starter throughout his career, at least versus lefties at worst case scenario. So Tommy Pham right now, he's doing a little bit of everything and one of the better Met players this season. The next hitter is Ha-Seong Kim of the San Diego Padres. I mentioned Kim as an ad last week, and now he's really taken off over the last 2 weeks here as Kim. And he qualifies at second, third, and short, which obviously is great versatility on the season here for Kim. Home runs, 31 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, 39 runs scored, a 257 average, and a 344 on base. And over the last 2 weeks here, he's really playing well. 5 home runs, 12 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 10 runs scored, a 333 average, and a 392 on base. So Kim's very versatile. He's always been a solid contact hitter, but now he's starting to show some pop. And with the new stolen base rule as well this season, the stolen bases have gone up as well for Kim, where last season he had 12, and already this year he has 13 in the last few games for Kim. June 28th at the Pirates, 0 for 5. June 29th at the Pirates, 2 for 3, a homer, 2 RBIs. June 30th, he sat that one out. July 1st at Cincinnati, 1 for 5 with 2 runs. And July 2nd at the Reds, 1 for 3 with a homer. So right now, he's showing power, like I said as well, which is added to his game. After last season, only having 11 home runs. And already this year with 9. So right now, he's playing good. And the better hitters on this Padre team this season, with Juan Soto having a down year, up and down. Manny Machado, his numbers haven't been all that great. Cronsworth, he's taking a step back. So right now, Ha-Seong Kim, he's playing great baseball, and he's a solid add this week. Next hitter is Jaime Candelario of the Washington Nationals. So Candelario, last week I mentioned him as a pickup, and he's been solid for this Washington National team. And another player like Tommy Pham, who's going to be a trade candidate with the Nats out of the race, obviously, on the season. For Candelario, 11 home runs, 39 RBIs, 42 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a 264 average, and a 337 on base. And over the last 2 weeks here, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, 9 runs scored, a 304 average, and a 347 on base. So he's got power. Is Candelario. He plays every day, solid third baseman defensively as well. And right now he's out there in tons of fantasy leagues still. In 74% of fantasy leagues, here's Candelario. But like I said, he's going to be on the trade block, and before the August 1st MLB trade deadline, I think we see him go to a contender. But he plays every day for the Nats. He's been batting third, and if he does go to a contender, his value definitely could take a hit. But right now, as long as he's on Washington and playing every day, he's a solid pickup this week. June 27th at the Mariners, 2 for 5 a run, RBI, a stolen base. June 28th at the Mariners, 1 for 3 a run, RBI, a stolen base. June 30th at the Phillies, 1 for 4. July 1st at the Phillies, 1 for 3. And July 2nd at the Phillies, 1 for 3 with a homer and 2 runs scored. So right now, playing all around, could steal bases, could obviously hit the home run ball with 11 on the season, and drive in runs as well. So right now, Candelario is a hitter I would add this week. The next hitter is Luke Raley of the Tampa Bay Rays. So Raley's come out of nowhere this season here for the Tampa Bay Rays team. The only thing with him is I would like to see him play a little bit more, because he's only playing 4 or 5 times a week as a starter as Raley. But on the season, very solid numbers for Raley. 14 home runs, 35 RBIs, 9 stolen bases, 44 runs scored, a 280 average, and a 361 on base. So right now, power, driving in runs, and stolen bases, he's bringing for fantasy owners. And even the batting average over the last month of the season has skyrocketed. In the last month, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 20 runs scored, a 343 average, and a 395 on base. And Raley right now, surprisingly, still out there in 60% of fantasy leagues. June 28th, the Diamondbacks, 1 for 4 run and a rib. June 29th at Arizona, 2 for 3 a homer, and that one 2 runs scored. June 30th at the Mariners, 2 for 4, 2 runs, an RBI, a stolen base. July 1st at Seattle, 1 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs. And July 2nd at Seattle, 1 for 3 with a run and 2 ribs. So right now, over the last few weeks here, the playing time's gone up for Raley, and the numbers have gone up as well. And this Ray team, they've been free-falling a little bit considering where they started early in the season. So they need bats like Raley in the lineup, and right now, out there in 60% of fantasy leagues. And he's got great versatility, qualifying at first and outfield, and he's definitely a hitter I looked at this week. Next hitter is Jordan Westburg of the Baltimore Orioles. So Westburg called up last week, and he's been solid so far in the first week of his major league career. On the season for Westburg, no home runs, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored on the year, a 313 average in 19 at-bats, and a 389 on base. So Westburg, one of the top prospects in Major League Baseball, and one of the top prospects obviously in this Baltimore Orioles system. And he was tearing it up down there, over 12 home runs, had 10 plus stolen bases, and he was hitting over 330. So it was time for Baltimore to call him up. And so far, I think he could be a legit option, and similar to a Matt McLain, Pittsburgh, I could see him do this season. June 27th versus the Reds, 2 for 3. June 28th versus the Reds, 2 for 5, a run and a rig. July 1st versus Minnesota, 0 for 3. And July 2nd versus Minnesota, 0 for 3 with an RBI. So right now, Westburg still available in 54% of fantasy leagues. But if he puts in another solid week here, he's going to be owned in more leagues. Shortstop, we know, is one of the weakest positions in fantasy baseball. And like I said, he's a blue chipper, is Westburg, and one of the top prospects in baseball. And Baltimore, they needed help hitting in at the shortstop position, so they gave him the call, and so far, he looks solid as Westburg. So I would give him an ad this week. The next hitter, Eddie Rosario of the Atlanta Braves. Eddie Rosario, he's been showing solid power this season, and I know it's been up and downs. I know we don't verse lefties a lot, but the numbers don't lie for Rosario on the season. 14 home runs, 40 RBIs, 36 runs scored, a stolen base, a 266 average, and a 317 on base. And over the last month of the season, he's been on a tear for sure. 9 home runs, 22 RBIs, 18 runs scored, a 318 average, and a 402 on base. So he's in a loaded lineup with this Atlanta Brave team, where 1 through 9, they might be the deepest team, them with Texas in their order. And Rosario on this Brave team, they just keep winning ball games. They've won 20 out of 25 ball games right now. And Rosario's been a big part of it, batting 6th or 7th usually. So if you need some pop and RBIs, he's going to bring that for owners. June 27th versus Minnesota, 1 for 3. June 28th versus the Twins, 0 for 3. June 30th versus the Marlins, 1 for 4, a homer, 3 RBIs. July 1st versus the Marlins 0 for 2. And July 2nd versus the Marlins 0 for 3. So right now, Rosario's still out there in a decent amount of fantasy leagues in 47%. And he's going to bring you power. I know he's going to have some slumps up and down, but what power hitter don't? But right now, like I said, with a lot of protection in that lineup and a lot of good pitches, he's going to see batting 6th or 7th with a talented hitters around him. He's a hitter that could pay big dividends for fantasy owners. And a hitter I would look to add this week. The next hit is his teammate Marcell Ozuna of the Atlanta Braves. So Ozuna having a nice bounce back season, and to begin the year, there were questions if he was going to even make the Brave team and possibly get cut. But right now, he's having a good year, Ozuna, and he's showing the power, and even the batting average is solid for Ozuna. After the last 2 seasons, it's been in the doldrums. On the year, 16 home runs, 39 RBIs, 35 runs scored, 251 average, and a 332 on base. And over the last month of the season, very solid numbers: 5 home runs, 17 RBIs, 14 runs scored, a 318 average, and a 398 on base. So right now, Ozuna, he's cut back on the strikeouts in a big way this season. He struck out only 58 times. 139 at-bats is Ozuna, so that's a good thing to see. Ozuna, he's not just swinging for the fences each and every at-bat. He's making solid contact. His exit velo is definitely still tops in the league week in and week out, it seems like, for Ozuna. And just like with Rosario, in a great lineup where he's going to get good pitches batting 6th with all that protection. So the last few games, June 27th versus the Twins, 2 for 4. June 28th versus Minnesota, 1 for 3. June 30th versus the Marlins, 1 for 4 run. July 1st versus the Marlins, 1 for 4 running 2 RBIs. And July 2nd versus the Marlins, and that one, 1 for 4. So right now, playing great baseball with Ozuna. Surprisingly, still out there in 52% of fantasy leagues, and right now he's a good add for sure this week. The next hitter, Spencer Torkelson of the Detroit Tigers. Torkelson, the former top prospect in all Major League Baseball a few years ago. Last season was totally a down year for him in his first season campaign. 8 home runs, only 28 RBIs, and a 203 average. With this season, the batting average isn't great, but the power is starting to come around, especially in the last month of the season for Torkelson. 12 home runs, 42 RBIs, 40 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 224 average, and a 305 on base. So right now, the batting average is definitely not a good number at all, but if you're looking for pure power and RBIs, Torkelson is bringing that for fantasy owners. And right now, he's available in tons of fantasy leagues at 84%. So Torkelson, I know he got off to the slow start early in the season. I know the batting average still isn't up to par, but now he's really showing power, and he's been a legit power threat, especially with 4 home runs in the last week. June 29th at Texas, 2 for 3, 2 homers, 4 RBIs. June 30th at the Rockies, 1 for 4, a run and a rib. July 1st at the Rockies, 1 for 4. And July 2nd at the Rockies, 2 for 3, a homer, 2 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. So right now, I know they moved the fences in Detroit in the offseason. That definitely can help them out, as well as Torkelson. They got an Oakland Athletic team coming into town here to start the week on July 4th. Poor pitching staff, obviously, as well, where Torkelson could take advantage. So if you could sacrifice batting average, but you're looking for home runs and RBIs, he's going to bring that for fantasy owners. And like I said, he was the number 1 prospect in all Major League Baseball for a reason last season, before the season started. And now he's starting to show some flashes of why he was that. So right now, while he's still out there in tons of leagues at 84%, he's definitely a hit I look to add this week. And the final hit I look to add off the wire for Week 14 is Henry Davis of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So Henry Davis, one of their top prospects in the Pirate system. He came up a few weeks ago, and they got him playing some corner outfield as well as Davis, but obviously qualifies as catchers. If he's going to play every day and he's a catcher, that's definitely a big thing in fantasy baseball, where we know catchers usually take a day or 2 off per week. So on the season in the early going, in 46 at-bats here for Davis, 1 home run, 6 RBIs, 6 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 311 average, and a 380 on base. So Davis in the minor leagues, he was showing power, and he had over 10 stolen bases as well, hitting over 300 easily in the minor leagues. So it was time for Pittsburgh to call him up. And now, so far in the first 2 weeks in the major leagues, he's been playing good baseball, is Henry Davis. And like I said, catches a weak position. And then the fact that he plays some corner outfield as well, and possibly could play 7 days a week in and week out pretty much, because he's not going to be catching as much, is definitely a big thing here for Davis. June 28th versus the Padres, 2 for 4, a run, 2 RBIs, a stolen base. June 29th versus the Padres, 3 for 4, run, 2 RBIs. June 30th versus the Brewers, 0 for 4, run. July 1st versus the Brewers, 1-for-4 run. And July 2nd, he pinch hit versus the Brewers, 0-for-1. So right now, catches weak position like we know. He's got some pop. He could steal some bases, and he was a good batting average hitter in the minor leagues, like I mentioned. So Henry Davis is definitely a solid add this week. So that's a few hitters I looked at, and a pretty stacked week of hitters that are available on the wire for Week 14 of the fantasy baseball season.